Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop responding to your baby, even for just a few seconds, everything changes? In 1975, a researcher named Edward Tronick put that exact moment under a microscope. It involved a mother, her baby, and 3 minutes of nothing. And what happened in those 3 minutes, what it revealed about what babies actually need from their parents, is something every parent needs to understand. Today, I am breaking down the still face experiment, what it shows, what it means for your baby's developing brain, and 3 parenting tips you can apply starting tonight. Stay until the repair moment at the end, because that is the part that changed how I see everything. Before we get into the experiment, I want to say something important. This research is not designed to make parents feel guilty. It is designed to help parents understand what their baby's brain is actually doing during every daily interaction, and why your presence and responsiveness matters more than any toy, app, or program ever could. This is baby psychology in its most honest and practical form. The still face experiment works like this. A mother interacts normally with her baby, smiling, responding, making eye contact, doing what attuned parents naturally do. Then, on a signal, she stops. Completely. Blank face, no response, no expression, no acknowledgement. Just stillness. And what the baby does in the next 3 minutes, that is what changed infant psychology forever. Within seconds of the mother going still, the baby notices. They try everything they know to re-engage her. They point, they smile more broadly. They vocalize, making sounds and gestures that have always worked before. They reach toward her. When nothing works, the baby's behavior changes dramatically. They turn away. They arch their back. Their posture collapses. They begin to show visible signs of distress, facial expressions of confusion, sadness, and eventually, full crying. Edward Tronick and his team documented something that surprised everyone in the research community: the speed of the response. Within 30 to 60 seconds of the mother's blank face, a baby who was calm, engaged, and happy entered a state of measurable physiological distress. Heart rate elevated. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rose in the bloodstream. The nervous system moved from regulated to dysregulated almost immediately. And the baby did not just feel the absence of connection. Their entire developing nervous system responded to it as a threat. Here is what the baby psychology and neuroscience shows us about why the baby reacts so fast and so strongly, and why it happens even when the mother is still physically present in the room. A baby's brain from birth is a social brain. It is designed and wired to seek connection, read faces, and interpret responsiveness as the primary signal of safety. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, is fully functional from birth and is constantly scanning the environment for one question above all others: am I safe? And the primary answer to that question in early infancy is not the physical environment. It is the caregiver's face. A responsive, attuned face tells the amygdala, you are safe. I am here. This world responds to you. A blank, unresponsive face tells the amygdala something completely different. The environment is unpredictable. This world does not respond. Threat response activated. So when the mother's face goes still, the baby's amygdala fires a genuine threat response. Not because the baby is being dramatic, not because they are spoiled or attention-seeking, because their threat detection system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, treating the loss of caregiver responsiveness as a survival threat. In infant psychology, this response is called the social referencing system. The baby uses the caregiver's face as their primary reference point for whether the world is safe. When that reference point goes blank, the developing nervous system has no choice but to respond with alarm. Because in evolutionary terms, a caregiver who stops responding is a caregiver who may no longer be available. And for a completely dependent infant, that is the most significant threat there is. Now, I want to address something the still face experiment reveals that most parenting tips never discuss honestly. The original experiment lasted 3 minutes. It was a laboratory setting. But what Edward Tronick's research revealed is that brief moments of parental unresponsiveness happen constantly in everyday life, and most parents do not even realize it is happening. Edward Tronick called these micro still face moments. They are the brief periods of parental unresponsiveness that occur throughout a normal day. When a parent checks their phone during floor play, when a parent is mentally present but emotionally absent during a feed, when stress or distraction causes a parent to go through the motions without real attunement. Research following the original still face experiment found something important. The effects of these micro moments are cumulative. A single brief phone check during play does not damage a baby's development. But when micro still face moments repeat consistently and frequently throughout the day, without deliberate repair, the baby's developing nervous system begins to adjust its baseline expectations. It learns to expect lower responsiveness. And a nervous system that expects lower responsiveness builds differently than one that expects consistent attunement. The developing prefrontal cortex, the brain's regulation center, builds fewer regulatory pathways. The stress response system becomes more sensitized. Emotional regulation capacity develops more slowly. This is not about blame. It is about understanding that the still face experiment is not just a 3-minute laboratory demonstration. It is a window into what your baby's brain is doing every time connection pauses and responsiveness goes quiet, however briefly. So, what do these parenting tips look like in practice, based specifically on what the still face experiment reveals about baby psychology? 3 simple daily actions, each under 2 minutes, each directly addressing what the research shows your baby's developing brain actually needs. Parenting tip 1, the response window. Research from the still face experiment and follow-up studies shows that babies register and respond to parental responsiveness within seconds. The practical tip? When your baby sends a serve, a sound, a gesture, a look, respond within 5 seconds whenever possible. You do not need a perfect response. You need a timely one. A simple look back, a word, a smile. 5 seconds. That is your window. Within 5 seconds, your baby's amygdala receives the signal. The world responds to me. I am safe. Parenting tip 2, the phone down rule. The most common modern micro still face trigger is the phone. Not because phones are evil, because they are genuinely compelling and the attentional pull is powerful. The practical tip? During one daily interaction of at least 10 minutes, feed, floor play, or bath time, phone goes face down in another room if possible. Not on the table, not beside you, out of reach. Your baby's amygdala cannot distinguish between a parent who is distracted by a phone and a parent whose face has gone blank. To the social referencing system, the effect is the same. 10 minutes, phone away, full presence. 1 interaction daily. That is the tip. Parenting tip 3, the repair habit. And this is the most important one. When you disconnect, phone check, stress, distraction, genuine overwhelm, repair it deliberately and warmly when you return to connection. Not with an apology or explanation your baby cannot understand, with presence. Get down to their level. Make eye contact. Smile. Say something warm. I am here. I see you. That deliberate return to connection after a micro still face moment teaches the baby's developing brain something profound. Disconnection is not permanent. Connection returns. That learning builds what infant psychology calls earned security, the developing sense that even when attunement temporarily breaks, it reliably comes back. Repair is not a recovery from failure. It is itself one of the most powerful parenting tips the still face experiment gives us. Now here is the part I promised you at the beginning, the repair moment. And this is where the still face experiment gives every parent something genuinely hopeful. Watch what happens at the end of the original experiment. the mother returns to normal interaction, smiling, responding, being present again. And within seconds, the baby recovers. The distress dissolves, the joy returns, the connection rebuilds as if the disconnection had never happened. Edward Tronick and his team found that this recovery, this repair, happened reliably, consistently, across hundreds of babies in the study. The developing brain is not fragile, it is resilient. But that resilience depends on one thing: repair happening, consistently, reliably, every time. What the repair data from the still face experiment tells us about baby psychology is profound. The developing brain does not need a perfectly attuned parent to build healthy emotional regulation. It needs a parent who repairs. Research from infant psychology shows that repair after rupture, consistent, warm return to connection after moments of disconnection, is as important for healthy brain development as the initial connection itself. In fact, some researchers argue it is more important because repair teaches the developing nervous system something that perfect attunement never can: that connection is recoverable, that the world is fundamentally safe even when it temporarily feels difficult, that the caregiver always comes back. This is what secure attachment is actually built on. Not perfect parenting, repaired parenting. The still face experiment does not show us the damage of disconnection. Ultimately, it shows us the extraordinary power of repair. And that power is available to every parent, not just the ones who never check their phone, or never feel overwhelmed, or never have a hard day. One final thing the baby psychology research shows us that I want every parent watching to carry with them. Edward Tronick's research found that mothers in the study were attuned and responsive to their babies approximately 30% of the time. 30%, not 100. And babies developed secure attachment and healthy nervous systems from that 30%, because the other 70% was consistently repaired. You do not need to be a perfect parent. You need to repair. That is the parenting tip the still face experiment ultimately gives us, and it is one that is completely achievable on the hardest days, in the most overwhelming moments, by every single parent. The still face experiment. 3 minutes that changed everything we know about baby psychology. 3 parenting tips from the research: the response window, the phone down rule, and the repair habit. And the most important finding of all: repair is more powerful than perfection. Your baby's developing brain does not need you to be perfectly present every moment. It needs you to come back, consistently, warmly, every time you disconnect. That is enough. That is more than enough. Now, tell me in the comments, which of these 3 parenting tips are you taking into your day tomorrow? 1, 2, or 3? I read every single one. And if the repair message in this video is something a parent in your life needs to hear tonight, please share it with them. For the habits that create unnecessary micro still face moments in your home, watch our 9 dangerous habits video, linked in the description. Subscribe for weekly neuroparenting tips and baby psychology science. I will see you in the next one.